every soul. Family ties tangle, spaghetti in a maze. Growing up in this world of non-stop craze. Through Wonderland's gates we unlock the scene. Heartfelt confessions mixed with caffeine. Identity a mirror, emotions on the grind. Relationships weave webs tangled in the mind. Dad had a dad joke, mom had a battle cry. Bro screaming GTA, sister waving goodbye. Chaos at the dinner table, feelings hit the wall. Trying to grow tall, but the ceiling's way too small. Through Wonderland's gates we unlock the scene. Heartfelt confessions mixed with caffeine. Identity a mirror, emotions on the grind. Relationships weave webs tangled in the mind.
Imagine this. You're pouring your heart out, sharing something vulnerable, and the response you get is silence. Or worse, dismissal. It's as if you've spoken into the void and your words have vanished, just like the Cheshire Cat disappearing into thin air. Today, we're talking about the emotional toll of being ignored or dismissed, especially by the people who are supposed to understand you the most, whether it's family, friends, or even colleagues. It's painful when your feelings are minimized or brushed aside as though they don't matter. But what happens when that feeling of being unheard becomes the norm? When your emotional experiences are treated like they're insignificant, or worse, when your needs are outright invalidated. Let's unpack the layers of this invisibility and why it hurts far more than people often realize. When you think of the Cheshire Cat, you probably picture that cryptic, knowing smile, and the way he seems to fade in and out of view in Alice in Wonderland. He doesn't just vanish physically, he disappears emotionally too. His presence is there, but his essence is elusive. He engages in conversations that leave Alice more confused, lost, and searching for meaning than when she first started. In his interactions, he leaves her suspended in a place of ambiguity, almost like an emotional void. And in that space, Alice struggles to find clarity. Now, imagine for a moment that you're the one fading in and out. You're trying to be seen, to be heard, but the moment you express your emotions, you're met with silence, indifference, or even dismissal. It's like you're not even there. You voice your frustration or sadness, and the response is something like, "Oh, you're just being dramatic," or "It's not that big of a deal." And just like that, your feelings vanish into the ether, leaving you questioning not only your emotions, but your very existence in the conversation. This isn't just about being unseen. It's about being made to feel that you aren't worthy of being seen. This is where the pain lies. When you pour out your feelings and instead of feeling heard, you're met with an emotional vacuum. It's not just a denial of your feelings, it's the implication that you are the problem, that your emotions are the disturbance, and not the situation or the context that triggered them. You're left floating in confusion, wondering if there's something wrong with you for having those feelings in the first place. And here's the kicker. When you are dismissed in this way, it isn't only about your emotions being ignored, it's about the devaluation of your humanity. It's as if you're a character in the background of someone else's story, but never the main character in your own. Over time, you start to wonder if maybe you're wrong for feeling how you do, or worse, that you're not entitled to feel it all. You begin to shrink. You start to second guess yourself, toning down your emotional expression because you've been made to feel that your responses are too much, too loud, too noticeable. And that shrinking, it doesn't protect you. It only isolates you further. The effect of this repeated emotional invisibility is deep. It can create feelings of isolation and self-doubt. It's not just a momentary experience. Being repeatedly minimized makes you feel as though your inner world is irrelevant. It's not just about being told that you're overreacting. Over time, this treatment can start to affect your own relationship with your feelings. You begin to question their validity. You may even find yourself apologizing for your emotions or trying to change the way you express them in an attempt to avoid conflict. It's like you're living in a world where you're the one who has to constantly adjust to fit the narrative that others have created, even if it means silencing your own truth. And that, my friends, is the real emotional cost of being ignored and dismissed. The cost is losing touch with your own authenticity. It's losing yourself in the process of trying to gain the approval or recognition from people who don't value what you're experiencing. And in the end, you're left with nothing but a quiet voice in your head asking, what's wrong with me? But let's take a moment to think about the Cheshire Cat again. Yes, he fades in and out, but he always leaves behind his iconic grin, a symbol that he's there even if he's not. And that smile, that's something you should hold on to. Because like Alice, you are important, even when others can't see it. The trick is learning how to hold on to your truth, even when people around you can't see it, or when they refuse to acknowledge it. The act of being ignored or minimized doesn't just sting for a moment. It can leave lasting scars on your emotional well-being. It's one thing when someone invalidates your feelings once or twice. We've all had that experience where we try to express something and the person we're talking to doesn't quite get it. But when this becomes a reoccurring pattern, it starts to feel like you're being pushed into the margins of your own life. Like you're constantly being told, in subtle or not so subtle ways, that your feelings don't matter. This is where the real emotional damage happens. The first few times you feel dismissed, you might just brush it off, but over time, this rejection of your emotional reality becomes part of your identity. You begin to internalize it. You start thinking, maybe I really am too sensitive. Maybe my emotions are just too much. The result? You become smaller and quieter, not wanting to take up too much space because you've learned through painful experience that your emotions are seen as a problem rather than a valid expression of your inner world. In families, workplaces, or even friendships, the minimization game plays out in ways that can be devastating. Those who should be your greatest sources of support, your parents, your partner, your closest friends, become the ones who dismiss your feelings. And this dismissal doesn't just happen in one-off conversations. It's the constant pattern of invalidation that starts to wear you down. Every time you share something vulnerable, the message is clear. You're too much. You're told you're being too dramatic, or that your problems aren't worth the attention you're giving them. Have you ever been told something like, it's not a big deal, or why are you just making such a fuss over this? You know that feeling. Your heart sinks. It's like someone just drained the air from the room. You try to speak your truth, and the response is, why are you making a big deal out of nothing? But here's the truth. Your feelings are never nothing. They are real, they are valid, and they matter. The painful part is when this comes from the people you trust the most, those who are supposed to listen, support, and understand you. Instead, they treat your emotions like an inconvenience, a disruption to the status quo. And when the people closest to you invalidate your feelings, it's like a slap in the face. Not just because they don't understand you, but because it's a painful reminder that you're not being seen for who you truly are. The way others minimize your emotions isn't just a passing issue. It's a form of emotional manipulation. This behavior creates a situation where you're constantly walking on eggshells. It's like you're playing a game where your emotions are the stakes, and the rules are rigged against you. The goal is not to understand you, but to make you feel small, to minimize your emotional experience to the point that you start doubting yourself. Let's take a deeper dive into the emotional impact of this. When you're consistently minimized, it creates a profound sense of emotional invalidation. The message is loud and clear. Your feelings don't matter. They're not worth paying attention to. Now, here's the kicker. When this happens over and over, you start to internalize that message. You begin questioning your own worth. You think, why should I even bother feeling this if it's just going to be dismissed? You start to feel like you're invisible. Your thoughts, your struggles, your needs, none of them seem to be as important as the needs of others. And when that happens, something inside of you starts to shut down. The most dangerous part of this minimization is the way that it encourages emotional suppression. We've all heard the advice to just get over it or move on already. These kinds of messages only push you deeper into emotional suppression. You stop expressing your feelings not because they've gone away, but because you've been made to believe that expressing them is wrong. inconvenient, or too much for others to handle. You learned keep your emotions to yourself, burying them deep inside. But let's be real. Suppressing your feelings doesn't work in the long run. Emotions are like pressure building up in a container. You can try to seal it all in, but eventually the pressure will build up to a point where it cannot be contained anymore. When you bottle up things for too long, these emotions find other ways to express themselves through stress, anxiety, frustration, or physical symptoms like headaches or exhaustion. This is where things start to get tricky. When you're not allowed to express your emotions, they start to manifest in other ways. You may find yourself becoming angry at small things that wouldn't normally upset you, or maybe you feel overwhelmed by situations that would have previously been manageable. Anxiety and self-doubt begin to creep in, and perhaps worst of all, you feel disconnected from others because when you're constantly suppressing your own feelings, it becomes harder to connect with those around you in a meaningful way. You're not really being you anymore. You're just going through the motions, trying to avoid conflict and keep the peace, all while feeling like a ghost in your own life. The long-term effect of these emotional suppression are real. You start to lose touch with who you are, what you truly want, and what you need from those around you. Over time, you may even begin to believe the lies you've been told, that you're too emotional, that you're too dramatic, that your feelings don't matter. These lies become your truth, and it's incredibly hard to break free from them. But here's the truth I want to leave you here with today. Your feelings are never too much. You're not a problem for feeling deeply or for expressing yourself. The problem lies with those that don't know how to handle their own emotions, and instead of addressing their discomfort, they project it onto you. This doesn't make you the issue. It makes them uncomfortable with what they can't process in themselves. Before we move on, I want to share a personal story with you. I've been there. I've felt like the Cheshire Cat, fading in and out of conversations, trying to be heard but never, ever truly seen. There was a time in my life when expressing any sort of frustration or hurt led to a wave of dismissiveness. I was told I was too sensitive, that I shouldn't take things so personally, and that I needed to just let it go. And the more this happened, the more I started questioning myself. Was I being dramatic? Was I overreacting? But over time, I realized something important. Feeling your feelings is not a crime. Everyone is entitled to their emotional experiences. And when someone dismisses that, it's not about you. It's about their inability to understand or handle their own emotions. And that's where I started shifting the narrative. I started learning how to stop accepting others' invalidation as truth. Gaslighting takes minimization to another level. It's not just about denying or brushing off your feelings. It's about actively rewriting your emotional reality to make you question your own perception. You've probably heard this one. That never happened, or you're just being too sensitive. But gaslighting doesn't always look like outright lies. Sometimes it's a subtle erasure of your experience. Gaslighting can happen in different ways. Flat-out denial. You're imagining things. Twisting reality. You always take things the wrong way. Blame shifting. If you weren't so sensitive, maybe this wouldn't happen. The worst part of gaslighting is that it makes you feel like you can't trust your own emotions. Over time, you start to doubt your own sanity. But here's the truth. When someone dismisses your feelings, it's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of their inability to handle your emotions. Let's break it down. What does gaslighting do to you in the long run? It makes you second-guess yourself. It makes you doubt the validity of your emotions, and eventually it makes you feel like you're losing control of your own reality. So what do you do when you're constantly dismissed or ignored? How do you protect your sense of self when the world around you seems to question your emotions? Here are some strategies that might help. Recognize the pattern. The first step is recognizing when this is happening. Are there people in your life who consistently dismiss your feelings? Are there situations where you're made to feel like your emotions are too much? Once you spot the pattern, you can start to make a conscious decision about how to handle it. Set boundaries. You don't have to accept this behavior. Setting boundaries means being clear about what you will and will not tolerate. It's okay to tell someone, I'm not comfortable with how you're responding to my feelings. Practice emotional validation. You can validate your own emotions. Practice saying to yourself, what I feel is real. I don't need anyone else to agree with me for my feelings to be valid. Seek support. Surround yourself with people who understand you and value your emotions. Find those who won't dismiss or minimize you. Therapy support groups and friends who understand emotional validation can be huge resources. Know your worth. Being dismissed isn't a reflection of your worth. You are entitled to feel what you feel, and you don't need to shrink yourself to make others feel comfortable. That's it for today's episode. If you've ever felt like the Cheshire Cat disappearing or being dismissed, remember that your emotions matter. You're not invisible, and you're not overreacting. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review Wonderland Unlocked wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, remember, just because someone doesn't see you doesn't mean you're not there. Keep showing up for yourself. You got this.